Hello, hello, hello! Greetings, salutations, konnichiwa, and every other form of green across this vast, marvelous multiverse. I am Matsu Quinox. This is Horse, and welcome back, my dear, marvelous, wonderful scholars, to the study. Hello there, hello there, hello there! Oh my goodness, hello there, Darth. Welcome. Congratulations on getting first. Oh, is my chat box turned off? Oh no, wait. Is it not turned off? Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, okay, that's weird. That is very weird. Oh, I don't know why. Alright. Anyway, congratulations on getting first, Darth. Hello there, hello there, hello, all you marvelous, wonderful scholars, wherever you are, whenever you are across this vast, marvelous, omniverse. How are y'all doing, my dear scholars? Are you doing well? Da 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 da. Da 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 dum. Ah, as for myself, well, it's been an okay day. It's been quiet, kind of weirdly quiet. Like, I don't know, something like every is it just me or is it everyone really tense for some reason? It just feels that way. I don't know why. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm having some kind of very strange paranoia. Maybe that it affects us omniversal beings. I don't know. Horace probably thinks I'm crazy. Yeah, of course you do. Darth, wait, you mean even the Sith Lord who bullies you relentlessly is marvelous? So you really do like all the bullying? Then I do not like the bullying, Darth. Also, congratulations on getting first. Thank you and welcome. Don't like bullying. Don't like bullying. Though I am fond of you scholars. I mean, you scholars are my entire existence. You keep me entertained, and I entertain you. I hope. Ah. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh. The bullying is the bullying is something I'm forced to put up with. Not really something that I like putting up with, but it does exist. You know, I'm well aware of the fact that it's there. Ah, but anyway, anyhow, anyhow, it is yeah, it's been just quiet, very eerie day. Um, there's not much for me to report on my end here in the study. Anything new for all you, dear scholars? Oh my goodness gracious. I hate the cream. Ah. Yeah, yeah. Ah. 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 Sorry, I tried putting some lemonade in my water. It's sour. It is sour. Hello there, Julian20. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, I mean, I do like sour flavor, but sometimes it just hits you with a surprise, you know? You go, you're not ready for it. Darth, yes, I'm here for the entertainment. The bullying is a side quest. I'm good. I got 6 to 7 hours of sleep last night, and oh boy, I really fell into that one, didn't I, my dear scholars? Julian20, I am dot dot dot. You are dot 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 dot. All right, dot 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 dot. If that's what you wish to be known as, we will respect your decisions. Dot 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 dot. Yes, dot dot dot. Well, it's good to hear that. Dot 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 dot. Dot 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 dot. Well, I'm glad you're here. Dot 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 dot. So okay, that's a little mean of me, I admit. Oh, what can I say? What can I say? LOL. Yes. Dot 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 dot. Maybe I should stop that. I don't know. Oh, sorry. I thought I heard something. Oh my goodness gracious. Where are we? Oh, yes, yes, yes. I should be talking about the stream, shouldn't I? That's what we're all here for. To see Matsu do a stream an electronic stream, not in that kind of stream. I mean, we we meaning us, myself, Horace, Ovid, Virgil, you scholars. We are not going to be childish tonight, not like the last stream where we had some interesting times, you know. Darth, yes, you did fall into that one, just like the D.67 I got you with on Monday. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm well aware. I remember that, Darth. I'm still proud of that one. It's been a few days. Yes, yes. I bet you just burst your buttons out of sheer pride. Union 20. Aw, well, I don't know. Anyway, tonight, my dear, marvelous, wonderful scholars, we are continuing our reading. Yes, a reading tonight of The Moon Pool. Goodness gracious, I wish I had a proper summary written down for this thing. Last time, our intrepid heroes who are on the journey to discover the truth behind the mysterious disappearances that have been happening in Maroon in Southeast Asia have discovered a secret civilization buried underneath the earth. Darth, Matsu, I'm here, so hence there will be childishness. Yes, I noticed that, Darth. I noticed that. I am prepared for you and Kintron if or when Kintron shows up for you to barrage me with the silliness, the childishness, the over the topness. I am well prepared. Um so yes, I got my if you could see my hands now, which I still have to work on. For some reason they're constantly jammed under this desk. What is under this desk anyway? Um oh, who chews gum in this place? I thought we were more clean than that here. Anyway, yes, I am prepared for the worst. Where was I? Oh, yes! Excuse me. Yes, they have discovered a secret civilization underneath the earth, where one of our intrepid heroes, Larry, I lost my track of my thought, had a, bit of a, tit for tat. Let's say, um, I think that's the, I mean, do not giggle, do not giggle, do not giggle. A bit of a, let's say, little argument with one of the leaders, which they're lucky to get out of, and they discover the girl who this Larry is in love with, and things I cannot recall where we are leading off to, honestly. So, my dear scholars, shall we continue our reading of the moon pool and discover just where this little civilization is and what secrets it's hiding? What say you, my dear scholars? I'm a little out of breath doing all that. Julian 20 says, sure, okay. All right, my dear scholars. Sit back, relax, have a hot. Oh my goodness, a Shogun Kevin. I have not seen Shogun Kevin in a long time. Hello there. Yes, we will continue then, Shogun Kevin. So sit back, relax, have a warm or cold beverage of your liking. Dim the lights if you wish, and let us continue our reading of The Moon Pool by A. Merritt. Excuse me. Darth, yes, I need to fill up my brain with the pools of knowledge that this Over the Moon book gives me, and that was a pun. That is bad, Darth. Bad. Okay, where was I? Oh, yes. Uh, Roman numerals, what can I say? Chapter 17 The Leprechaun. The shell carried us straight back to the house of Yolara. Larry was awaiting me. We stood again before the Timburius wall, where first we had faced the priestess and the voice. And as we stood, again the portal appeared with all the disconcerting magical abruptness. But now the scene was changed. Around the jet table was grouped a number of figures. Luger, Yolara beside him, 7 others, all of them fair-haired and all men, save one who sat at the left of the priestess. An old, old woman. How old I could not tell, her face bearing traces of beauty that must once have been as great as Yolara's own, but now ravaged, in some way awesome. Through its ruins the fearful, malicious gaiety shining out like a spirit of joy, held within a corpse. Darth got him again. It's only been 6 to 6. Stop it, Darth, please. I'll never get through this story if I keep stopping for puns and that number. Began then our examination, for such it was, and as it progressed I was more and more struck by the change in the O'Keefe. Okay, this isn't too long. All flippancy was gone. Rarely did his sense of humor reveal itself in any of his answers. He was like a cautious swordsman, fencing, guarding, studying his opponent, or rather like a chess player, who keeps sensing some far-reaching purpose in the game, alert, contained, watchful. Oh, hello there, Kintron. Welcome, malicious gaiety. Damn. Yeah, it's that oxymoron that they keep mentioning. Yeah, I mean, so they're happy evil rather than sad evil for some reason. Excuse me. Always he stressed the power of our surface races, their multitudes, their solidarity. Well, that's questionable. Their questions were myriad. What was our occupations? Our system of government? How great were the waters, the land? Intensely interested were they in the World War, querying minutely into its causes, its effects. Remember, this is written in 1919. So it was not long ago that World War I had occurred. Darth, if it makes you feel better, I tripped on my shoes getting out of bed to clean up from my dirt. Oh, no, no, now I feel bad. Excuse me. In our weapons, their interest was avid, and they were exceedingly minute in their examination of us as to the ruins which had excited our curiosity, their position and surroundings, and if others than ourselves might be expected to find and pass through their entrance. At this I shot a glance at Luger. He did not seem unduly interested. I wondered if the Russian had told him as yet of the girl of the rosy wall of the moon pool chamber, and the real reasons for our search. Then I answered as briefly as possible, omitting all reference to these things. The red dwarf watched me with unmistakable amusement, and I knew Marakinov had told him. But clearly Luger had kept this information even from Yulara, and as clearly she had spoken to none of that episode when O'Keefe's automatic had shattered the Keth-smitten vase. Again I felt that sense of deep bewilderment, of helpless search for clue into all the tangle. For 2 hours we were questioned, and then the priestess called Randor and let us go. Darth also, oh, hi, Kintron. Oh no, there's 2 of them. There's 2 of them now. For 2 hours we were questioned, and then the priestess called Rador and let us go. Larry was somber as we returned. He walked around the room uneasily. Hell's brewing here, all right, he said at last, stopping before me. I can't make out just a particular brand. That's all that bothers me. We're gonna have a stiff fight, that's sure. What I want to do quick is to find the golden girl, Doc. Haven't seen her on the wall lately, have you? He queried, hopefully fantastic. Dark lets out an evil laugh. Of course, of course, of course, of course. Laugh if you want to, he went on. But she's our best bet. It's going to be a race between her and the O'Keefe Banshee, but I put my money on her. I had a queer experience while I was in that garden after you'd left. His voice grew solemn. Did you ever see a leprechaun, Doc? I shook my head again as solemnly. He's a little man in green, said Larry. Oh, about as high as your knee. I saw one once, in Cartagher Woods, and as I sat there half asleep in Yolara's garden, the living spit of him stepped out from one of those bushes, twirling a little shillelagh. It's a tight box you're getting in, Larry Avic, said he, but don't you be downhearted, lad. I'm carrying on, said I, but you've a long way from Ireland, I said, or thought I did. Kintron laugh out loud, he does. 6, 7 times. You know, I would expect that joke from Darth. Kintron, I thought better of you. Thought it was just puns from you and not this. Excuse me. You've a lot of friends there, he answered, and where the heart rests, the feet are swift to follow. Not that I'm saying I'd like to live here, Larry, said he. I know where my heart is now, I told him. It rests on a girl with golden eyes and hair and swan-white breast of Ildeath the Fair. But my feet don't seem to get to me to her, I said. The brogue thickened, and the little man in the green nodded his head and whirred his shillelagh. It's what I came to tell ye, says he. Don't ye fall for the Brennan Nimha, the serpent woman with the blue eyes. She's a daughter of Ivor, lad. And don't ye do nothing to make the brown-haired Colleen ashamed of ye, Larry O'Keefe. I knew your great-great-grandfather, and his before him, Aroon, says he, and one of the Keefe. Yeah, sorry, it's hard to do the dialect here. Drink water for this. Hard to do Irish this way. And one of the O'Keefe fallen is to think their hearts big enough to hold all the women of the world. A heart's built to hold only one permanently, Larry, he says, and I'm warning ye, a nice girl don't like to move into a place all cluttered up with another's washing and mending and cooking and other things pertaining to general wife work. Not that I think the blue-eyed one is keen for mending and cooking, says he. You don't have to be coming all this way to tell me that, I answered. Well, I'm just a-telling you, he says. You've got some rough knocks coming, laddie. In fact, you're in for a devil of a time. But remember that you're the O'Keefe, says he, and while the boys are all wide ya, Vic, you've got to be on the job yourself. Oh my goodness, it is thickening. I hope, I tell him, that the O'Keefe Banshee can find her way here in time. That is, if necessary, which I hope it won't be. Don't you worry about that, says he. Not that she's keen on leaving the old soil, laddie. Kintron, think as potato soup. Thick. Oh, that is awful, Kintron. Oh my goodness. That is awful. My goodness gracious. Excuse me. Oh. The good old soul's in quite a state of mind about ye, Aroon. I don't mind telling ye, lad, that she's mobilizing all the clan, and if she has to come for ye, Evic, they'll be with her, and they'll sweep this joint clean before ye go. What I'll do is to make the big wind look like a summer breeze on low line. And that's about all, Larry. We thought a voice from the Green Isle would cheer ye. Don't forget that ye're the O'Keefe, and I say it again, all the boys are with ye. But we want to keep you being proud of ye, lad. And I look again, and there was only a bush waving. There wasn't a smile in my heart, or if there was, Or, if there was, it was a very tender one. I'm going to bed, he said abruptly. Keep an eye on the wall, Doc. Shogun, Shogun, I prefer New England clam chowder. I love New England clam chowder. It's so good. I haven't eaten that in a long time. Between the 7 sleeps that followed, Larry and I saw but little of each other. Yolara sought him more and more. Thrice we were called before the council. One we were at a great feast, whose splendors and surprises I can never forget. Largely I was in the company of Rador. Together we two passed the green barriers into the dwelling place of the Ladala. They seemed provided with everything needful for life. But everywhere was an oppressiveness, a gathering together of hate that was spiritual rather than material, as tangible as the latter and far, far more menacing. They do not like to dance with the Shining One, was Rador's constant and only reply to my efforts to find the cause. Once, I had concrete evidence of the mood. Glancing behind me, I saw a white, vengeful face peer from behind a tree trunk. A hand lift, a shining dart speed from it straight toward Rador's back. Instinctively, I thrust him aside. He turned upon me angrily. I point to where the tight little missile lay, still quivering on the ground. He gripped my hand. That someday I will repay, he said. I looked again at the thing. At its end was a tiny cone covered with a glistening, gelatinous substance. Excuse me. Rador pulled from a tree beside us a fruit somewhat like an apple. Look, he said. He dropped it upon the dart, and at once, before my eyes, in less than 10 seconds, the fruit had rotted away. That's what would have happened to Rador, but for you, friend, he said. I'm betting they're going to be foreshadowing something much later on. Come now between this and the prelude to the latter half of the drama, whose history this narrative is, only scattering unnecessary fragmentary observations. First, the nature of the ebon opacities, blocking out the spaces between the pavilion pillars or covering their tops like roofs. These were magnetic fields, light absorbers, neg- negative. How do you say this? Negativing the vibrations of radius. Literally screens of electrical force which formed as impervious a barrier to light as would have screens of steel. Remember this, my dear scholars. In pulp stories, if it's not radiation, usually radium, it's electricity. Everything is either radium or electricity. That's the cause of technology. They instantaneously made night appear in a place where no night was. You know, what would be the point of that? I mean, if you think about it, this is an entire civilization that has existed underground for who knows how long. What would the purpose of night be? I mean, if there's light there, then why would you actually need dark at all? It really would serve no natural purpose to them. I mean, you could argue maybe that it's for their biological clocks, but if they are down there, they've probably adapted to not being the same way. So what would be the purpose of artificial night? The only thing I can think about, my dear scholars, is that maybe it's because their ancestors who came from the surface and came down there built them so that they would have night rather than just day and night. But it's still a really weird idea. But they interposed no obstacle to air or to sound. They were extremely simple in their inception, no more miraculous than is glass, which inversely admits the vibrations of light, but shuts out those coarser ones we call air. and partially those others which produce upon our auditory nerves the effects we call sound. Briefly, their mechanism was this, and we have a little note here. For the same reason that Dr. Goodwin's exposition of the mechanism of the atomic engines was deleted, his description of the light-destroying screens has been deleted by the Executive Council, GBF, President, IA of S, which, of course, means the author doesn't actually have to explain everything. I mean, it saves him having to sit down and come up with you know, a likely explanation of how the technology works. Excuse me again. There's a lot of allergens in this study today. There were two favorite classes of Ladala, the soldiers and the dream makers. The dream makers were the most astonishing social phenomena, I think, of all. Denied by their circumcised environment the wider experience of us of the outer world, the Murians had perfected an amazing system of escape through the imagination. They were, too, intensely musical. Their favorite instruments were double flutes, immensely complex pipe organs, harps great and small. They had another remarkable instrument made up of a double octave of small drums, which gave forth percussions remarkably disturbing to the emotional sense. Wait a moment, wait a moment, wait a moment, wait a moment, wait a moment. Wait a moment. What is a dream maker? He just skipped it. Did you notice that, dear scholars? Did you notice? He skipped it. All he says in here is denied by their circumcised environment with wider experience, the Murians had perfected an amazing system of escape through the imagination. What does that mean? I mean, are the dream makers like, do they have some sort of psychic power? Do they project things? Are they just storytellers? If so, why doesn't he just come out and say, oh, they have a wonderful way of telling tales for their audience, and yeah, I mean, it does seem a little suspect, don't you agree? I mean, what we're doing, does that make us dream makers? It just skips right to the next part. It was this love of music that gave rise to one of the few truly humorous incidents of our cavern life. Kintron, we are the storytellers, we are the makers of dreams. Ah, yes, 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 I love that. Excuse me again, oh my goodness gracious. Larry came to me. It was just after our fourth sleep, I remember. Come on to a concert, he said. Let me see. Darth, maybe they each. You know, that word, that E word, I know that technically it is the right thing to say for a situation like this. Do I want to say it? Probably not. Should I say it? I don't think so. Will I say it? Maybe they ejaculate nice tails. Yes, I guess I'm saying it. Darth, I'm laughing so hard right now I can't breathe. That is the consequence of your own actions, Darth. You must face your consequences. Come on to a concert, he said. We skimmed off to one of the bridge garrisons. Radar called the 2 score guards to attention. And then, to my utter stupefaction, The whole company, O'Keefe leading them, roared out the anthem, God Save the King. They sang in a closer approach to the English than might have been expected scores of miles below England's level. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, they bellowed. He quavered with suppressed mirth at my perilous of surprise. Taught him that for Marakinov's benefit, he gasped. Wait till that red hears it. You blow up. Just wait until you hear Yolara lisp a pretty little thing I taught her, said Larry as we set back for what was we now called home. There was an impish twinkle in his eyes. And I did hear. For it was not many minutes later that the priestess condescended to command me to come to her with O'Keefe. Show Goodwin how much you have learned of our speech, O lady of the lips of honeyed flame, murmured Larry. She hesitated, smiled at him, and then from that perfect mouth, out of the exquisite throat, in the voice that was like the chiming of little silver bells, she trilled a melody familiar to me indeed. I have no idea how this song goes. I don't know what the melody is. Give me 1 second, my dear scholars. I'm going to double check the melody for this song before I sing it. We'll be right back. Okay, I got it. It's an actual song, too. It's a fairly old song, apparently. So I actually had to look it up to see what the melody was for it. Recording I found was from 1904, so she trilled a melody familiar to me indeed. She's only a bird in a gilded cage, a beautiful sight to see, and so on, to the bitter end. She thinks it's a love song, said Larry when we had left. It's only part of a repertoire I'm teaching her. Honestly, Doc, it's the only way I can keep her mind clear when I'm with her, he went on earnestly. She's a deviless from hell. But I wonder, whenever I find myself going, I get her to sing that, or Take Back Your Gold, or some other ancient lay, and I'm back again, pronto, with the right perspective. Pop goes all the mystery. Hell, I say, she's only a woman. Darth, you know I'm on stream 6. Next stream will be 7 of my watch stream. That is what we call sneaky, my dear scholars. Sneaky. Very sneaky. Anyway. Yeah, Darth is very sneaky. Just remember that, my dear scholars. Excuse me. Where was I? Oh yeah. Ah. Excuse me. Chapter 18. The Amphitheater of Jet. I'm just gonna check how long this one is. Ooh, a little bit longer. Excuse me. 4 hours the black-haired folk had been streaming across the bridges, flowing along the promenade by scores and by hundreds, drifting down towards the gigantic seven-terrace temple, whose interior I had never as yet seen, and from whose towering exterior, indeed, I had always been kept far enough away, unobtrusively, but nonetheless decisively, to prevent any real observation. The structure I had estimated nevertheless could not be reached less than 1,000 feet above its silvery base, and the diameter of its circular foundation was about the same. Darth, I'm a viper. I strike fast and out of nowhere. I noticed that. I wondered what was bringing the Ladala into Laura, and where they were vanishing. All of them were flower-crowned with the luminous, lovely blooms, old and young, slender, mocking-eyed girls, dwarfed youths mothered with their babes, gnomed oldsters. On they poured, silent for the most part, and sullen. A sullenness that held acid bitterness, even as their subtle, half-sinister, half-gay malice seemed tempered into little keen-edged flames, oddly menacingly defiant. You know, this is a weird thing, again, with the character. He points out that these people very obviously are not happy with their situation and that they are against all the other ones. And yet he still uses these really kind of mean terms to describe them as beings who are half sinister, half gay, kind of things not to be trusted sort. It's kind of weird for me, at least. There were many of the green-clad soldiers along the way, and the garrison of the only bridge span I could see had certainly been doubled. Wondering still, I turned from my point of observation and made my way back to our pavilion, hoping that Larry, who had been with the Olara for the past 2 hours, had returned. Hardly had I reached it before Rador came hurrying up, in his manner a curious exultation mingled with what in anyone else I would have called a decided nervousness. "Come," he commanded before I could speak. "The council has made decision, and Lari is awaiting you." "What has been decided?" I panted as we sped along the mosaic path that led to the house of Yolara. "And why is Larry awaiting me?" "Shogun, I'm an apex predator. Even polar bears know better to try to come at me." Interesting, Shogun, interesting. Personally, I'm an omniversal librarian. And to be honest, I don't know what any other animal thinks of me. I'd rather be with my books. Excuse me. And at his answer, I felt my heart pause in its beat, and through me race a wave of mingled panic and eagerness. "The Shining One dances," had answered the green dwarf, "and you ought to worship." Darth and Horace. Yes, and Horace. What was this dancing of the Shining One of which so often he had spoken? Whatever my foreboding, Larry evidently had none. "Great stuff!" he cried when we had met in the great antechamber, now empty of the dwarves. "Hope it will be worth seeing. Have to be something damn good, though, to catch me after what I've seen of shows at the front," he added. And remembering with a little shock of apprehension that he had no knowledge of the dweller beyond my poor description of it, for there are no words actually to describe what that miracle of interwoven glory and horror was, I wondered what Larry O'Keefe would say and do when he did behold it. Radar began to show impatience. "Come," he urged. "There is much to be done, and the time grows short." He led us to a tiny fountain room, in whose miniature pool the white waters were concentrated, pearl-like and opalescent in their circling rim. "Bathe!" he commanded, and set the example by stripping himself and plunging within. Only a minute or two did the green dwarf allow us, and he checked us as we were about to don our clothing. Then, to my immense embarrassment, oh my goodness, to my, snap it, sorry, my little screen is acting up. Then, to my immense embarrassment, without warning, two of the black-haired girls entered, bearing robes of a peculiar dull blue hue. At our manifest discomfort, Rador's laughter roared out. He took the garment from the pair, motioned them to leave us, and still laughing, threw one around me. Its texture was soft, but decidedly metallic, like some blue metal spun to the finesse of a spider's thread. The garment buckled tightly at the throat, was girdled at the waist, and below this cincture fell to the floor, its folds being held together by a half-dozen looped cords. From the shoulders, a hood resembling a monk's cowl. Rador cast this over my head. It completely covered my face, but was of so transparent a texture that I could see, though somewhat mistily, through it. Darth, you really should find a way to turn Horace into a plushie. He's so cute, I'd buy 6 to 7 plushies. Of course you would, Darth. Of course you would. I have actually considered it, but there are difficulties involved, so we shall see. Excuse me. What was I? Oh yeah. Finally, he handed us both a pair of long gloves of the same material and high stockings, the feet of which were gloved, 5-toed. And again his laughter rang out at our manifest surprise. The priestess of the Shining One does not altogether trust the Shining One's voice, he said at last, and these are to guard against any sudden errors. And fear not, Goodwin, he went on kindly. Not for the Shining One itself would Yalara see harm come to Lari here, nor because of him to you. But I would not stake much on the Great White One, and for him I am sorry. For him I do like well. Is he to be with us? Asked Larry eagerly. He is to be where we go, replied the dwarf soberly. Grimly, Larry reached down and drew from his uniform his automatic. He popped a fresh clip into the pocket fold of his girdle. The pistol he slung high up beneath his armpit. The green dwarf looked at the weapon curiously. O'Keefe tapped it. This, said Larry, slays quicker than the Keth. I take it so no harm shall come to the blue-eyed one whose name is Olaf. If I should raise it, be you not in its way, Rador, he added significantly. The dwarf nodded again, his eyes sparkling. He thrust a hand out to both of us. A change comes, he said. What it is I know not, nor how it will fall, but this remember. Rador is more friend to you than you yet can know. And now let us go, he ended abruptly. He led us, not through the entrance, but into a sloping passage ending in a blind wall. Touched the symbol graven there, and it opened, precisely as had the rosy barrier of the moon pool chamber, and just as there, but far smaller, was a passage end. A low curved wall facing a shaft, not black as had been that abode of living darkness, but faintly luminescent. Rador leaned over the wall. The mechanism clicked and started. The door swung shut. The sides of the car slipped into place, and we swept swiftly down the passage. Overhead the wind whistled. In a few moments the moving platform began to slow down. It stopped in a closed chamber no larger than itself. Rador drew his punard and struck twice upon the wall with its hilt. Immediately a panel moved away, revealing a space filled with faint, misty blue radiance. And at each side of the open portal stood four of the dwarfish men, gray-headed, old, clad in flowing garments of white, each pointing towards us a short silver rod. Rador drew from his girdle a ring and held it out to the first dwarf. He examined it, handed it to one beside him, and not until each had inspected the ring did they lower their curious weapons. Containers of that terrific energy they called the Keth, I thought, and later was to know that I had been right. One second. We stepped out. The doors. Sorry, had to sneeze. Ah. Darth, what issues do you have with turning Horus into plushies? Me curious. Um, Horus was not officially designed by me. It was designed by me for someone else, and I kind of wish to reach out to the person who originally designed it to get their okay if I can use Horus in plushie form. I'm free to use Horus, of course, in streaming. No issues there, not at all. But I'm just worried a little bit about making Horus into something that can be, actually sold. I try to be very careful and respect everyone involved in the creative process. We stepped out. The doors closed behind us. The place was weird enough. Its pave was a greenish-blue stone resembling lapis lazuli. On each side were high pedestals holding carved figures of the same material. There were perhaps a score of these, but in the mistiness I could not make out their outlines. A droning, rushing roar beat upon our ears, filled the whole cavern. "I smell the sea," said Larry suddenly. The roaring became deep-toned, clamorous, and close in front of us a rift opened. 20 feet in width, it cut the cavern floor and vanished into the blue mist on each side. The cleft was spanned by one solid slab of rock, not more than 2 yards wide. It had neither railing nor other protection. Darth, that's valid. Yeah, yeah. I just try to be respectful whenever I can offer something like that. Where was it? It had neither railing nor other protection. The four leading priests marched out upon it one by one, and we followed. In the middle of the span they knelt. 10 feet beneath us was a torrent of blue seawater racing with prodigious speed between polished walls. It gave the impression of vast depth. It roared as it sped by, and far to the right was a low arch through which it disappeared. It was so swift that its surface shone like polished blue steel, and from it came the blessed, our worldly, familiar ocean breath that strengthened my soul amazingly and made me realize how earthsick I was. Whence came the stream, I marveled, forgetting for the moment as we passed on again all else. Were we closer to the surface of the earth than I had thought, or was this some mighty flood falling through an opening in the sea floor? Heaven alone knew how many miles above us, losing itself in deep abysses beyond this. How near and how far this was from the truth I was to learn. And never did truth come to man in more dreadful guise. The roaring fell away. The blue haze lessened. In front of us stretched a wide flight of steps, huge as those which had led us into the courtyard of Nan-Toch, through the ruined sea gate. We scaled it. It narrowed. From above light poured through a still narrower opening. Side by side, Larry and I passed out of it. We emerged upon an enormous platform of what seemed to be glistening ivory. It stretched before us for 100 yards or more, and then shelved gently into the white waters. Opposite, not a mile away, was that prodigious web of woven rainbows Radar had called the Veil of the Shining Ones. Darth, me have a riddle. What's fun to say? Hard and roasted during the Thanksgiving slash Christmas season. It's fun to say. Hard and roasted during the Thanksgiving Christmas. Give me a second. I'm trying to think of this one, actually. Hard to say. What's fun to say? Hard. I give up, Darth. I don't know. What is fun to say, hard, and roasted during the Thanksgiving Christmas season? What is it? Yeah, my curiosity. Chestnuts. Oh! Oh no, oh no, oh no. Oh. 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 Hmm. Ah. Shogun, I was just about to say that. Oh, you got me. Mm. Mm, 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 mm. Mm. Darth, what goes good with chestnuts? What goes good with chestnuts, Darth? I'm starting to dread thinking what it might be. Shogun, I happen to be ordering Twister Squadron to Indiana to follow a nasty tornado. Oh, interesting. Hmm. Darth, these nut. Don't you dare, Shogun. Don't you dare. Do not encourage Darth. We've already talked about this with the rest of the scholars. We don't encourage Darth. Where was I? Okay. Yeah. There it's shown in all its unearthly grandeur, on each side of the Cyclopean pillars, as though a mountain should stretch up arms, raising between them a fairy banner of auroral glories. Beneath it was the curved scimitar sweep of the pier, with its clustered gleaming temples. Before that brief fascinated glance was done, there dropped upon my soul a sensation, as of brooding weight intolerable, a spiritual oppression, as though some vastness was falling, pressing, stifling me. I turned, and Larry caught me as I reeled. "Steady! Steady, old man!" he whispered. "Shogun, it's one of the few times I jump in." Mm-mm-mm. Darth, my chest hurts and I'm crying from laughing. I think that was better than the one I got you with on Monday. You enjoy this so much. I'm sure you have like a trophy where you are that says #1 Matsu teaser or something. And Horace, don't you dare the use the I'm so upset I can't even think of the name of the room. Don't you dare go into that room and use it to form a trophy for Darth, okay? Okay. Darth, I don't. Thanks for the idea, Matsu. You? At first, all that my staggering consciousness could realize was immensity, an immeasurable uprearing that brought with it the same throat gripping vertigo as comes from gazing downward from some great height. Then a blur of white faces, intolerable shinings of hundreds upon thousands of eyes. Huge, incredibly huge, a colossal amphitheater of jet, a stupendous semicircle held within its mighty arc the ivory platform on which I stood. It reared itself almost perpendicularly hundreds of feet up into the sparkling heavens, and thrust down on each side its ebon bulwarks like monstrous paws. Now the giddiness from its sheer greatness passing, I saw that it was indeed an amphitheater, sloping slightly backwards tier after tier. Excuse me. And that the white blur of faces against its blackness, the gleaming of countless eyes, were those of myriads of the people who sat silent, flower garland, their gaze focused upon the rainbow curtain, and sweeping over me like a torrent, tangible, appalling. 500 feet beyond, the smooth, high retaining wall of the amphitheater raised itself. Above it, the first terrace of the seats, and above this, dividing the tiers for another 1,000 feet upward, sat within them like a panel, was a dead black surface, in which shone faintly with a bluish radiance a gigantic disk. Above it and around it, a cluster of innumerable smaller ones. Excuse me. On each side of me, bordering the platforms, were scores of small pillared alcoves, a low wall stretching across their fronts, delicate, fretted grills shielding them, save where in each lattice an opening stared. It came to me that they were like those stalls in ancient Gothic cathedrals, wherein for centuries had kneeled paladins and people of my own race on earth's fair face. And within these alcoves were gathered, score upon score, the elven beauties, the dwarfish men of the fair-haired folk. At my right, a few feet from the opening through which we had come, a passageway led back between the fretted stalls. A lot of descriptions here. Halfway between us and the massive base of the amphitheater, a dais rose. Up the platform to it a wide ramp ascended, and on ramp and dais and along the center of the gleaming platforms down to where it kissed the white waters, a broad ribbon of the radiant flowers lay like a fairy carpet. On one side of this dais, meshed in a silken web that hid no line or curve of her sweet body, white flesh gleaming through its folds, stood Yolara, and opposite her, crowned with a circlet of flashing blue stones, his mighty body stark bare, was Luger. O'Keefe drew a long breath. Radar touched my arm, and still dazed, I let myself be drawn into the aisle, and through a corridor that ran behind the alcoves. At the back of one of these, the green dwarf paused, opened a door, and motioned us within. Entering, I found that we were exactly opposite where the ramp ran up to the dais, and that Yolara was not more than 50 feet away. She glanced at O'Keefe and smiled. Her eyes were ablaze with little dancing points of light. Her body seemed to palpitate, the rounded, delicate muscles beneath the translucent skin to run with joyful little eager waves. Larry whistled softly. There's Marakinov, he said. I looked where he pointed. Opposite us sat the Russian, clothed as we were, leaning forward, his eyes eager behind his glasses. But if he saw us, he gave no sign. And there's Olaf, said O'Keefe. Beneath the carved stall in which sat the Russian was an aperture, and within it was Haldrickson, unprotected by pillars or by grills, opening clear upon the platform. Near him stretched the trail of flowers up to the great dais, which Lugur, and Yolara the priestess guarded. He sat alone, and his heart went out to him. O'Keefe's face softened. Bring him here, he said to Rador. The green dwarf was looking at the Norseman too, a shade of pity upon his mocking face. He shook his head. "Wait," he said. "You can do nothing now, and it may be there will be no need to do anything," he added. But I could feel that there was little of conviction in his words. I'm going to see how long the next chapter is. So, the next chapter might be our last one for the evening. Depends on how long it is. We shall see, my dear scholars. Oh my goodness. Alright. Excuse me again. Ooh. I'm having quite a little cough tonight. Chapter 19. So it should be worth noting, my dear scholars, that there are 35 chapters in this book. We are at chapter 19. So we are a bit past halfway through the book. Chapter 19. The Madness of Olaf. Oh, that doesn't sound good. Yolara threw her white arms high. From the mountainous tears came a mighty sigh. A rippling ran through them. And upon the moment before Yolara's arms fell, there issued apparently from the air around us a peal of sound that might have been the shouting of some playful god, hurling great suns through the net of stars. It was like the deepest notes of all the organs in the world combined in one, summoning, majestic, cosmic. He really likes being dramatic, doesn't he? It held within it the thunder of the spheres rolling through the infinite, the birth song of suns made manifest in the womb of space, echoes of creation's supernal chord. It shook the body like a pulse from the heart of the universe, pulsed and died away. You know, again, I've mentioned this before, when it comes to pulp writing, always know that you can take any single line of descriptive in a regular book, and for pulp writing, you can turn it into like 3 paragraphs. This does not have to be this long, but, you know, being paid by the word for a magazine, man's gonna write as much as he can write. Excuse me. On its death came a blaring as of all the trumpets of conquering hosts since the first pharaoh led his swarms, triumphal, compelling. Alexander's clamoring hosts, brazen-throated wolf horns of Caesar's legions, blare of trumpets of Genghis Khan and his golden horde, clangor of the locust levies of Tamerlane, bugles of Napoleon's armies, war shout of all earth's conquerors, and it died. Fast upon it a throbbing muscled tumult of harp sounds, mellowness of myriads of wood horns, the subdued sweet shrilling of multitudes of flutes, Pandean pipings, inviting, carrying with them the calling of wild waterfalls in the hidden places, rushing brooks and murmuring forest winds, calling, calling, languorous, lulling, dripping into the brain like the very honeyed essence of sound. Whew! And after that, a silence, in which the memory of music seemed to beat ever more faintly through every quavering nerve. Using from me all fear, all apprehension had fled. In their place was nothing but joyous anticipation, a supernal freedom from even the shadow of care or sorrow. Not now did anything matter. Olaf or his haunted, hate-filled eyes, Throckmorton or his fate. Nothing of pain, nothing of agony, nothing of striving, nor endeavor, nor despair in that wide outer world that had turned suddenly to a troubled dream. Once more the first great note pealed out. Once more it died, and from the clustered spheres A kaleidoscopic blaze shot as though drawn from the majestic sound itself. The many-colored rays darted across the white waters and sought the face of the irised veil. As they touched, it sparkled, flamed, wavered, and shook with fountains of prismatic color. The light increased, and in its intensity the silver air darkened, faded into shadow that white mosaic of flower-crowned faces set in the amphitheater of jet, and vast shadows dropped upon the high-flung tiers and shrouded them. But on the skirts of the rays, the fretted stalls in which we sat with the fair-haired ones blazed out, iridescent like jewels. I was sensible of an acceleration of every pulse, a wild stimulation of every nerve. I felt myself being lifted above the world, close to the threshold of the high gods. Soon their essence and their power would stream out into me. That is very dramatic. I glanced at Larry. His eyes were wild, with life. I looked at Olaf, and in his face was none of this. Only hates and hates and hates. The peacock waves streamed out over the waters, cleaving the seemingly darkness, a rainbow path of glory. And the veil flashed, as though all the rainbows that had ever shone were burning within it. Again the mighty sound pealed. Into the center of the veil the light drew itself, grew into an intolerable brightness. And with a storm of tinklings, a tempest of crystalline notes, a tumult of tiny chimings, through it sped the Shining One. Straight down that radiant path, its high-flung plumes of feathery flame shimmering, its coruscating spirals whirling, its 7 globes of 7 colors shining above its glowing core. It raced towards it. Oh, so we're now back to this plot point again. Finally. The hurricane of bells of diamond glass were jubilant, joyous. I felt O'Keefe grip my arm. Yolara threw her white arms out in a welcoming gesture. I heard from the tier a sigh of rapture, and in it a poignant, wailing undertone of agony. Over the waters, down the light stream to the end of the ivory pier, flew the Shining One. Through its crystal pizzicati drifted inarticulate murmurings, deadly sweet, stilling the heart and setting it leaping madly. Excuse me again. For a moment it paused, poised itself, and then came whirling down the flower path to its priestess, slowly, ever more slowly. It hovered for a moment between the woman and the dwarf, as though contemplating them. Turned to her with its storm of tinklings softened, its murmurings indefinitely caressing. Bent toward it, Yolara seemed to gather within herself pulsing waves of power. She was terrifying, gloriously, maddeningly evil, and as gloriously, maddeningly heavenly. Aphrodite and the Virgin, Tanith of the Carthaginians, and Saint Bride of the Isles. Wait, Aphrodite was evil? Really? Huh. A queen of hell and a princess of heaven in one. Only for a moment did that which we had called the Dweller, and which these named the Shining One, pause. It swept up the ramp to the dais, rested there, slowly turning, plumes and spirals lacing and unlacing, throbbing, pulsing. Now its nucleus grew plainer, stronger, human in a fashion, and all inhuman. Neither man nor woman, neither god nor devil, subtly partaking of all. Nor could I doubt that whatever it was, within that shining nucleus was something sentient, something that had will and energy, and in some awful supernormal fashion, intelligence. Mm. Shogun, yeah, she was. She was a 304. I have no idea what that means, but I will trust you, Shogun. Another trumpeting, a sound of stones opening, a long, low wail of utter anguish. Something moved, shadowy, in the river of light, and slowly at first, and ever more rapidly, shapes swam through it. There were half a score of them, girls and youths, women and men. The shining one poised itself, regarded them. They drew closer, and in the eyes of each and in their faces was the bud of that awful intermingling of emotions, of joy and sorrow, ecstasy and terror, that as I had seen in full blossom on Throckmorton's. The thing began again its murmurings, now infinitely caressing, coaxing, like the song of a siren from some witched star, and the bell sounds rang out, compellingly calling, calling, calling. I saw Olaf lean far out of his place, saw half consciously, at Luger's signal, three of the dwarfs creep in and take places unnoticed behind him. Excuse me. Darth, 304 is a number slain for. Hold on one second. 304 is a number slain for. Oh, that! No, I'm not gonna say that word. Not gonna say that word on my stream. I am I am respectful of others, and I will not speak that word. Now the first of the figures rushed upon the dais and paused. It was the girl who had been brought before Yolara when the gnome named Songar was driven into the nothingness. With all the quickness of light, a spiral of the shining ones stretched out and encircled her. Excuse me. At its touch, there was an infinitely dreadful shrinking, and it seemed a simultaneously hurling of herself into its radiance. As it wrapped its swirls around her, permeated her, the crystal chorus burst forth, tumultuously. Through and through her, the radiance pulsed. Began then that infinitely dreadful but infinitely glorious rhythm they call the Dance of the Shining One. And as the girl swirled within its sparkling mists, another and another flew into its embrace, until at last the dais was an incredible vision, a mad star's witch's sabbath, an altar of white faces and bodies gleaming through living flame, transfused with rapture insurmountable and horror that was hellish, and even radiant plumes and spirals expanding, the core of the shining one waxed, growing greater as it consumed, as it drew into and through itself the life force of these lost ones. Darth, me too. I just used the word to explain what Shogun said, and while I'm evil, I have standards also. Good for you, Darth. Good for you. So they spun, interlaced, and there began to pulse from them life, vitality, as though the very essence of nature was filling us. Dimly I recognized that what I was beholding was vampirism inconceivable. The banked tires chanted, the mighty sounds pealed forth. It was a saturnalia of demigods. Yeah, I got quite a bit to read. Give me a second. Then whirling, bell notes storming, the Shining One withdrew slowly from the dais down the ramp, still embracing, still interwoven with those who had thrown themselves into its spirals. Shogun, he knows I call it like I see it. Really. Still, let me try. Okay. They drifted with it as though half carried in dreadful dance, white faces sealed forever into that semblance of those who held within it linked God and devil. I covered my eyes. Darth, yep, bullying Matsu good, using the H and other demeaning words bad. Yes, exactly. I heard a gasp from O'Keefe, opened my eyes, and sought his. Saw the wilderness vanish from them as he strained forward. Olaf had leaned far out, and as he did so, the dwarfs behind him caught him, and whether by design or through his own swift, involuntary movement, thrust him half into the dweller's path. The dweller paused in his gyrations, seemed to watch him. The Norseman's face was crimson, his eyes blazing. He threw himself back and with one defiant shot gripped one of the dwarfs about the middle and sent him hurling through the air, straight at the radiant thing. A whirling mass of legs and arms, the dwarf flew, then in mid-flight stopped as though some gigantic invisible hand had caught him, and was dashed down upon the platform not a yard from the Shining One. Like a broken spider he moved feebly once, twice. From the dweller shot a shimmering tentacle, touched him, recoiled. Its crystal tinklings changed into an angry chiming. From all about jeweled stalls and jet peak came a sigh of incredulous horror. Luger leaped forward. On the instant, Larry was over the low barrier between the pillars, rushing to the Norseman's side. And even as they ran there was another wild shout from Olaf, and he hurled himself out, straight at the throat of the dweller. But before he could touch the Shining One, now motionless, and never was the thing more horrible than then, with the purely human suggestion of surprise playing in his pose, Larry had struck him aside. I tried to follow, and was held by Rador. He was trembling, but not with fear. In his face was incredulous hope, inexplicable eagerness. Wait! Wait! The Shining One stretched out a slow spiral, and as it did so, I saw the bravest thing man had ever witnessed. Instantly, O'Keefe thrust himself between it. Instantly, O'Keefe. Shogun, Aphrodite was very unfaithful to her husband and was also very cruel. That is true. That is very true. Darth, I think I warned you about the word tentacles and being careful with how you say it, but in case I didn't doing now. Ah, okay. Okay. Thank you, Darth, for reminding me. I have to be careful with that. The tentacle. Where do the Shining One stretched? Yes, bravest thing man has ever witnessed. Instantly, O'Keefe thrust himself between it and Olaf, pistol out. The tentacle touched him, and the dull blue of his robe flashed out into blinding, intense azure light. From the automatic in his gloved hand came 3 quick bursts of flame straight into the thing. The dweller drew back. The bell sound swelled. Lugur paused. His hand darted up, and in it was one of the silver Keth cones. But before he could flash it upon the Norseman, Larry had unlooped his robe, thrown its fold over Olaf, and holding him with one hand away from the Shining One, thrust with the other his pistol into the dwarf's stomach. His lips moved, but I could not hear what he said. But Luger understood, for his hand dropped. Oh, Larry is a brave sort. Now Yolara was there. All this had taken barely more than 5 seconds. She thrust herself between the 3 men and the dweller. She spoke to it, and the wild buzzing died down. The gay crystal tinklings burst forth again. The thing murmured to her, began to whirl faster and faster, passed down the ivory pier, out upon the waters, bearing with it, meshed in its light, the sacrifices, swept on ever more swiftly, triumphantly, and turning with its ghastly crew, vanished through the veil. Abruptly, the polychromatic path snapped out. The silver light poured in upon us. From all the amphitheater arose a clamor, a shouting. Markinov, his eyes staring, was leaning out, listening. Unrestrained now by Rador, I vaulted the wall and rushed forward. But not before I had heard the green dwarf murmur. There's something stronger than the Shining One. Two things, yes. A strong heart and hate. Olaf, panting, eyes glazed, trembling, shrank beneath my hand. The devil that took my Helma, I heard him whisper. The shining devil. Both these men, Luger was raging. They shall dance with the Shining One, and this one too. He pointed at me malignantly. This man is mine, said the priestess, and her voice was menacing. She rested her hand on Larry's shoulder. He shall not dance. No, nor his friend. I have told you I dare not for this one. She pointed to Olaf. Neither this man nor this, said Larry, shall be harmed. This is my word, Yolara. Even so, she answered quietly, my lord. I saw Markinov stare at O'Keefe with a new and curiously speculative interest. Luger's eyes grew hellish. He raised his arms as though to strike her. Larry's pistol prodded him rudely enough. No rough stuff now, kid, said O'Keefe in English. The red dwarf quivered, turned, caught a robe from a priest standing by, and threw it over himself. The Ladala shouting sorry. I'm trying to get this word again. It's my tiredness is taking control. Gesturing, fighting with the soldiers, was jostling down from the tiers of jet. Come, commanded Yolara. Her eyes rested upon Larry. Your heart is great indeed, my lord, she murmured, and her voice was very sweet. Come. This man comes with us, Yolara, said O'Keefe, pointing to Olaf. Bring him, she said. Bring him, only tell him to look no more upon me as before, she added fiercely. You know, Markinov has kind of disappeared from the story. I mean, we just saw him, but not sure what he's doing. Beside her, the three of us passed along the stalls, where sat the fair-haired, now silent, at gaze, as though in the grip of some great doubt. Silently, Olaf strode beside me. Rador had disappeared. Down the stairway through the hall of turquoise mist, over the rushing sea stream we went, and stood beside the wall through which we had entered. The white-robed ones had gone. Yolara pressed. The portal opened. We stepped upon the car. She took the lever. We raced through the faintly luminous corridor to the house of the priestess. And one thing now I knew, sick at heart and soul, the truth had come to me. No more need to search for Throckmorton. Behind that veil in the lair of the dweller, dead alive, like those we had just seen swim in its shining train, was he, and Edith, Stanton, and Thora, and Olaf Huldriksson's wife. The car came to rest. The portal opened. Yolara leaped out lightly, beckoned, and flitted up the corridor. She paused before an ebon screen. At a touch it vanished, revealing us entrance to a small blue chamber, glowing as though cut from the heart of some gigantic sapphire. Bare, save that in its center upon a low pedestal stood a great globe fashioned from milky rock crystal. Upon its surface were faint tracings as of seas and continents, but if so, either of some other world or of this world in immemorial past, for in no way did they resemble the mapped coastline of our earth. Poised upon the globe, rising from it out into space, locked in each other's arms, lips to lips were two figures, a woman and a man. So exquisite, so lifelike that for the moment I failed to realize that they too were carved with the crystal. And before this shrine, for nothing else could it be, I knew, three slender cones raised themselves. Out of purest white flame, one of opalescence water, and the third of moonlight. There was no mistaking them. The height of a tall man each stood, but how water, flame, and light were held so evenly, so steadily in their spiral shapes, I could not tell. Yolara bowed lowly. Once, twice, thrice. She turned to O'Keefe, nor by slightest look or gesture betrayed she knew others were there than him. The blue eyes wide, searching, unfathomable, she drew close, put white hands on his shoulders, looked down into his very soul. My lord, she murmured, now listen well, for I, Yolara, give you three things: myself, and the Shining One, and the power that is the Shining One's. Yea, and still a fourth thing that is all three: power over all upon that world from whence you came. These, my lord, ye shall have, I swear it. She turned up toward the altar, uplifted her arms. By Saya and by Sayana, and by the flame, by the water, and by the light. There's a little note here. I have no space here even to outline the ethnology of this people. Oh, thank you for the hydrate. Shogun, thank you. Ah. I have no space here to outline the ethnology of these people, nor to catalog their pantheon. Cilia and Sayana typify worldly love. Their ritual was, however, singularly free from those degrading elements usually found in love cults. Priests and priestesses of all cults dwelt in the immense seven-terran structure, of which the jet amphitheater was the water side. The symbol, icon, and representation of Cilia and Sayana, the globe and the upstriving figures, typified earthly love, feet bound to earth, but eyes among the stars. Hell or heaven I never heard formulated, nor their equivalents, unless that existence in the Shining One's domain could serve for either. Over all this was Thanaroa, remote, unheeding, but still maker and ruler of all, an absentee first cause personified. Thanaroa seemed to be the one article of belief in the creed of the soldiers. Raydor, with his reverence for the Ancient Ones, was an exception. Whatever there was, indeed, of a high, truly religious impulse among the Murians, this far high god had. I found this exceedingly interesting because it had long been my theory, to put the matter in the shape of a geometrical formula, that the real attractiveness of gods to man increases uniformly according to the square of their distance. WTG. Music. Her eyes grew dark purple. Let none dare to take you from me, nor ye go from me unbidding, she whispered fiercely. Then swiftly, still ignoring us, she threw her arms about O'Keefe, pressed her white body to his breast, lips raised, eyes closed, seeking his. O'Keefe's arms tightened around her, his head dropped, lips seeking, finding hers, passionately. From Olaf came a deep indrawn breath that was almost a groan, but not in my heart could I find blame for the Irishman. The priestess opened eyes now all misty blue, thrust him back, stood regarding him. O'Keefe dead white raised a trembling hand to his face. "And thus have I sealed my oath, O my lord," she whispered. For the first time she seemed to recognize our presence, stared at us a moment, then through us, and turned to O'Keefe. "Go now," she said. "Soon Rador shall come for you. Then, well, after that let happens what will." She smiled once more at him, so sweetly, turned toward the figures upon the great globe, sank upon her knees before them. Quietly we crept away, still silent, made our way to the little pavilion. But as we passed we heard a tumult from the green roadway, shouts of men, now and then a woman's scream. Through a rift in the garden I glimpsed a jostling crowd on one of the bridges, green dwarves struggling with the ladala, and all about droned a humming as of a giant hive disturbed. Excuse me. Larry threw himself down upon one of the divans, covering his face with his hands, dropped them to catch in Olaf's eyes troubled reproach, looked at me. "I couldn't help it," he said, half defiantly, half miserably. "God, what a woman! I couldn't help it." "Larry," I asked, "why didn't you tell her you didn't love her? Then?" He gazed at me, the old twinkle back in his eyes. "Spoken like a scientist, Doc," he exclaimed. "I suppose if a burning angel struck you out of nowhere and threw itself about you, and you would most dignifiedly tell it you didn't want to be burned. For God's sake, don't talk nonsense, Goodwin," he ended almost peevishly. Excuse me. "Evil! Evil!" The Norseman's voice was deep, nearly a chant. "All here is of evil, thraldom, and helldevil it is, ja. And I'm trying to get this word right. And that she, Javelsk of beauty, what is she but harlot of that shining devil they worship? Aye, Olaf Hudriksen know what she meant when she held out to you power over all the world, ja. As if the world had not devils enough in it now." "What?" The cry came from both O'Keefe and myself at once. Olaf made a gesture of caution, relapsed into a sullen silence. There were footsteps on the path, and into sight came Rador, but a Rador changed. Gone was every vestige of his mockery. Curiously solemn, he saluted O'Keefe and Olaf with that salute which before this I had seen given only to Yolara and to Lugar. There came a swift quickening of the tumult, died away. He shrugged mighty shoulders. "The Ladala are awake," he said. "So much for what two brave men can do." He paused thoughtfully. "Bones and dust jostle not each other for place against the grave wall," he added oddly. "But if bones and dust have revealed to them that they still live." He stopped abruptly, eyes seeking the globe that bore and sent forth speech. Of course, there's another long little explanation here as a note. Uh, I find that I have neglected to explain the workings of these interesting mechanisms that were telephonic, dictaphonic, telegraphic in one. Well, you couldn't explain the rest of them because they got deleted, so you might as well do it for this one. I must assume that my readers are familiar with the receiving apparatus of wireless telegraphy. Are you, my dear scholars? Are you familiar with how the receiving apparatus of a telegraph works? I'm curious. How many of you actually know how a telegraph works? Excuse me. Okay. For those who don't know, it's mostly done through electrical impulses. Just pulse through wires. Kintron, it's a relay switch system to send pulse signals. Yes, Kintron, you got it. You have it. You have it. That's exactly how it works. Which must be tuned by the operator until its own vibratory quality is in exact harmony with the vibrations, the extremely rapid impacts of those short electrical wavelengths we call Hertzian, and which carry the wireless messages. I must assume also that they are familiar with the elementary fact of physics, that the vibrations of light and sound are interchangeable. Yeah, that is true. That is true. The hearing talking globes utilize both these principles, and with consummate simplicity. The light with which they shone was produced by an atomic motor within their base, similar to that which activated the merely illuminating globes. The composition of the phonic spheres gave their surfaces an acute sensitivity and resonance. In conjunction with its energizing power, the metal setup which is what is called a field of force, which linked it with every particle of its kind no matter how distant. When vibrations of speech impinged upon the resonant surface, its rhythmic light vibrations were broken, just as a telephone transmitter breaks an electrical current. Simultaneously, these light vibrations were changed into sound, on the surfaces of all spheres tuned to that particular instrument. The crawling colors which showed themselves all these times were literally the voice of the speaker in its spectrum equivalent. While usually the sounds produced required considerable familiarity with apparatus to be understood quickly, they could, on occasion, be made startlingly loud and clear, as I was soon to realize. WTG. The Afyo Maya has sent me to watch over you till she summons you, he announced clearly. There is to be a feast. You, Larry, you, Goodwin, are to come. I remain here with Olaf. No harm to him, broke in O'Keefe sharply. Rador touched his heart, his eyes. By the ancient ones, and by my love for you, and by what you twain did before the Shining One, I swear it, he whispered. So Rador is in love with him? Mm. Rador clapped palms. A soldier came round the path, in his grip a long, flat box of polished wood. The green dwarf took it, dismissed him, threw open the lid. Here is your apparel for the feast, Larry, he said, pointing to the contents. O'Keefe stared, reached down and drew out a white, shimmering, softly metallic, lawn-sleeved tunic, a broad, silvery girdle, leg swathings of the same argent material, and sandals that seemed to be cut out from silver. He made a quick gesture of angry dissent. Nay, laddie, muttered the dwarf, wear them. I counsel it. I pray it. Ask me not why. He went on swiftly, looking again at the globe. O'Keefe, as I was impressed by his earnestness. The dwarf made a curiously expressive pleading gesture. O'Keefe abruptly took the garments, passed in the room of the fountain. Excuse me. The Shining One dances not again? I asked. No, he said. No, he hesitated. It is the usual feast that follows the sacrament. Luger and Double Ton, who came with you, will be there, he added slowly. Luger, I gasped in astonishment. After what happened, he will be there? Perhaps because of what happened, Goodwin, my friend, he answered, his eyes again full of malice. And there'll be others. Friends of Yolara, friends of Luga, and perhaps another. His voice was almost inaudible. One whom they have not called. He halted, half fearfully, glancing at the globe, put finger to lips, and spread himself out upon one of the couches. That's a good question. Why do they keep mentioning, the malice in their eyes? It's like, okay, so is this character supposed to be good or evil? Unless the malice is directed towards someone else. I just realized that. I just realized that, my dear scholars. Oh my goodness gracious, why didn't I think about that? Strike up the band, came O'Keefe's voice. Here comes the hero. He strode into the room. I am bound to say that the admiration in Rador's eyes was reflected in my own, and even, if involuntarily, in Olaf's. A son of Siana, whispered Rador. He knelt, took from his girdle pouch a silk-wrapped something, unwound it, and still kneeling drew out a slender poniard of gleaming white metal, hilted with the blue stones. He thrust it into O'Keefe's girdle, then gave him again the rare salute. Come, he ordered, and took us to the head of the pathway. Now, he said grimly, let the Silent Ones show their power. If they still have it. And with this strange benediction, he turned back. For God's sake, Larry, I urged as we approached the house of the priestess, you'll be careful. He nodded, but I saw with a little deadly pain of apprehension in my heart a puzzled, lurking doubt within his eyes. As we ascended the serpent steps, Markanov appeared. He gave a signal to our guards, and I wondered what influence the Russian had attained, for promptly without question they drew aside. At me, he smiled admirably. Have you found... Yeah, give me 1 second, my dear scholars. Have you found your friends yet? He went on, and now I sensed something deeply sinister in him. No, it is too bad. Well, don't give up hope. He turned to O'Keefe. Lieutenant, I would like to speak to you. Alone. I've no secrets from Goodwin, answered O'Keefe. So? Queried Markinov suavely. He bent, whispered to Larry. The Irishman started, eyed him with a certain shocked incredulity, then turned to me. Just a minute, Doc, he said, and I caught the suspicion of a wink. They drew aside out of earshot. The Russian talked rapidly. Larry was all attention. Markinov's earnestness became intense. O'Keefe interrupted, appearing to question. Markinov glanced at me, and as his gaze shifted from O'Keefe, I saw a flame of rage and horror blaze up in the latter's eyes. At last the Irishman appeared to consider gravely, not as though he had arrived at some decision, and Markinov thrust his hand to him. And only I could have noticed Larry's shrinking, his microscopic hesitation before he took it, and his involuntary movement as though to shake off something unclean when the clasp had ended. Markinov, without another look at me, turned and went quickly within. The guards took their places. I looked at Larry inquiringly. Don't ask a thing now, Doc, he said tensely. Wait till we get home. But we've got to get damn busy and quick. I'll tell you that now. And we will stop there. Oh my goodness, I lost it. Hit the wrong thing. Give me 1 second. Because I gotta reset it at some point. But yes, we'll stop there for now. Yeah, things have gotten interesting. We met Olaf again, and Mark, of course, Markinov, you could probably guess by now, my dear scholars, Markinov is not someone who we're going to be trusting for much of the rest of the story, I think. I think Markinov has his own plans, as we know. Um, I will give them this. I'll give Merit this. I wasn't too impressed at first about the Lost Civilization angle that they were going for, but with the Shining one, with the Dweller coming back into the plot, it is making things interesting again, at least in my viewpoint. Um, it will be interesting. They're gonna probably find some way to go past that veil. They have to. We have to know what's going on back there. But it is very obvious that there's more to the story than meets the eye. I mean, it's obvious that the lower classes do not like the higher classes, that your Lara is somehow benefiting from the Shining One, and that somehow at the end of this, something has got to give. Um, so yes, we'll stop here. So next week, if everything goes according to plan, we might actually, my dear scholars, go back to playing Horizon Zero Dawn. We might do a little bit of a longer stream that evening on Monday. I know we played. We will be getting back to the other game, definitely. But I think we might go back to Horizon Zero Dawn for another stream just to get a little bit further in that game. Um, and then if everything goes according to plan, my dear scholars, with Thursday next week we'll be continuing more of the Moon Pool and see what happens to poor Larry and our heroes. Let's see who we can raid before we go, though. Is there anyone we can raid? I don't think there's any readers tonight going on. Not really seeing any readers going on right now. Just take a look here. See what else is going on. Double check this. Anyone mind if we raid a gaming streamer? I can see Stargazer KG is playing an interesting game. Stories from Seoul, the Gun Dog. It actually looks pretty interesting. So I think we might raid them for the evening. So then, my dear scholars, I say unto you, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Till we meet each other again at the study. Take care, and I shall see you next time. Till then, farewell and bye bye.